a privilege it is to be on with you guys and to have Gary back from Haiti, who spent the last 5 weeks down in Haiti. And Doug, we're having a crisis that there's a war against truth, and there's nothing or no one that can contend what's gone on in Haiti, and probably the greatest ripoff and the greatest cover-up of a ripoff financially relating to the Haitians and the whole recovery effort, obviously going through Hillary Clinton, obviously going through the Clinton Foundation. So with no further ado, I'll bring on Gary and let him share just from an eyewitness. And I got news for you. If he goes with the stories to tell that are out there, everyone's their jaw should be hitting the ground. Hi, Gary.
Yeah, it's if you know Jesus, you got to be about his business, and all of us. And what a great privilege to be on your show and to be talking to my good friend Steve. When people are in distress, particularly people that live in a country that don't know Jesus, and I'm not saying there's not a lot of great Christians in Haiti. There are. In fact, there's wonderful ministries in Haiti that have been serving there for years and being there, particularly for 5 weeks, living in Haiti, responding to this hurricane. That was one of the great things I got out of it, just meeting these people. There's a doctor. Her name is Catherine Wolf, and she's a medical doctor from Minnesota, and she's been living in Haiti for 39 years. And she was serving a community of a couple 100,000 people that live on top of this mountain, and she's pretty much the only doc in town. And they were devastated up there, and we were bringing in loads of food that went to her medical program to feed these people who lost all their crops. And so that was such a great part of it. Let me tell the audience what really was going on in Haiti. I've been calling it the hidden Holocaust. And the reason I'm calling it that is that nobody really knows about what happened there. And I believe that they don't know because the Clinton Foundation was so vulnerable. Just coming up to the election, if the American people had realized what a miserable, thieving witch that Hillary is, they collected over $2 billion, that's with a B, dollars for relief in Haiti. And according to the president of the Haitian Senate, only 2%, that's 2% of the $2 billion went to any of the Haitians. And I'm there with 3 of my aircraft and bringing in food as fast as I can and getting it out to these people. And when the hurricane went through that peninsula, over 1 million people were affected. 90% of them lost the roofs to their homes. They lost the crops. They lost the fruit trees, their animals, and they were literally starving. And there was virtually, it was a media blackout. And again, I think it was to protect the Clintons. The mainstream media has been exposed as an absolute corrupt group of people. And your audience, of course, knows that 95% of mainstream media is owned by 6 corporations. They all sit on each other's boards. It's nothing but propaganda. And they were so exposed over this election cycle that millions of Americans have woken up and realized they've been lied to by these medias that they get their information from. And Haiti was a great example because they literally put a death sentence on 1 million Haitians because they wouldn't tell the story because they were trying to provide cover for the Clinton Foundation and their grand theft from the poorest of the people in this hemisphere. So I was able to go over there and meet a need that was simply being unmet. We did have the U.S. military, but it was for 1 week, and the UN was there, but it's such a corrupt, miserable organization that the food that was available was not getting to those starving children. So and this is not going away until they get crops in the ground and get a chance to rebuild their lives. They're vulnerable for famine, and famine is the next thing that's going to happen. It's happening now, and we were there for 5 weeks with our 3 aircraft. We found ourselves flying food from Port-au-Prince out to these areas that had been devastated. And it was really neat. I was able to bring 2 reporters from InfoWars, and they spent 4 days with me over there. They brought drones. They were able to film the cities that had been just wiped away. It looked like Hiroshima. And they were able to tell the story about what we were doing there. And during that time, we flew doctors and food out to these areas that were so hard hit. And it turned out we were the only air evac from two of the major cities, Don Marie and Jeremy. And so if someone had been injured in a hurricane, their only escape to medical care was my aircraft flying them. The UN wouldn't fly wounded. The U.S. military wouldn't fly wounded. So we would go out with food and doctors and come back in with the wounded. And we did this for most of the 5 weeks. And, you know, when a doctor saves somebody, saves their lives, it's a neat experience. But there's 1,000 other doctors that could have saved somebody. Well, in Haiti, my aircraft was the only rescue that these people had. And they were from preemie babies up to an 80-year-old man whose tibia bone had with a compound fracture was protruding out of his leg. We were putting these people on the planes and bringing them back to the hospitals. In fact, I had to actually pay the hospital bills on the people we brought back because there was no support system for these injured people. And, you know, I'm 61 years old, so I've done a lot of, you know, interesting things in my life. But this was life-changing. To be able to be the one person that saves lives every day was a remarkable experience. And, you know, when God tells you to go, if you love Him, you go. And you'll be amazed at the doors that open, the favor that comes over you, the protection. And I got to experience that for 5 weeks as we were rescuing these people and feeding children and providing the transport for the medical care. And it was just a remarkable experience that I'm so grateful that, you know, when God asked who would go, you know, I didn't just say me, I shouted it. And, you know, I've been working in Haiti for almost 6 years now, since the earthquake. And we've been feeding about 10,000 children a day in that country. So when the hurricane went over, you know, it was just natural for me to, particularly as a pilot, to get my resources and go there and meet the needs. And what was most fascinating was that with the UN and with the U.S. military there, that God would use me in such a remarkable role. I mean, literally the only air ambulance and literally the only person bringing food to thousands of people. There were so few resources there. And again, I think if the American media had been there doing their job and told the American public, told the world about what had happened, what's going on right now, that there would have been a much greater response. But they kept it a secret. And so my role there became much larger than I would have ever imagined. And so rewarding to be able to literally hold a child and place the child in the care of a physician in the capital so that their needs can be met. Just remarkable. And I'm obviously still involved there. We're kind of in phase 2 now. We're shipping in 2 containers a week of food. That's 90,000 pounds. And right after the first of the year, we're going to go to phase 3. I'm going to probably buy a ship so that I can bring in literally millions of pounds of food. Remove.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Gary.
Yeah, I was just saying they just very recently got to the rubble of the city that had collapsed. You know, the problem was you had people like Bill Clinton influencing where the money went. And of course, it went to getting his brother-in-law, forget his first name, Rodham, Hillary's brother, the first gold concession that's been issued in that country for years. And, you know, and they built a factory. Matter of fact, Doug, your article's wonderful. I encourage everybody to go to your website and read it. Very, very well done. It explains the whole process of the corruption that's there. And it's typical. Anytime you have Democrats in particular, but just bureaucrats managing money, you know, it tends to go into the crony capitalism that these corrupt people, it's the only thing they know.
Well, they're clipping coupons because they are part of the scam. You know, when I coined the term, and I've said it on Alex's show and I've said it on your show so many times, rape, pillage, and plunder, I used to say United States is going under, but until you understand that globalists are nothing more than plunderers, pirates, and the quintessential practitioners of global genocide, you get a feel. You know, one of the things I want Gary to explain, Doug, is because when we talk about hunger and starvation, most of us, now there are others, and Jamie W., who is down, you met Jamie, Gary, what a neat guy. There's some pretty amazing people, just some of the coolest people. Jamie went to, with Jeremiah over to, you know, Afghanistan and Iraq when they were over there actually trying to, you know, make a difference, and they did when God used them with the Kurds. But anyway, the thing is that I don't think people are desperate. I don't think the United States, especially the American citizenry, even has a clue what all of the, and in my words, manipulated weather and manipulated geoengineering is going to do the food supply. But Gary, share what the face of starvation looks like, and share what would happen when your planes would come in to basically goat trails. And if you've seen some of the pictures that have been put up on the Haven Foundation on my website, the link there, I mean, share what the face of starvation looks like, because people think of starvation on just kind of a massive overview, but they don't see it like you did, people starving to death. And obviously Haiti is just probably the most recent example, but the globalists don't give a darn, I'll be very careful here, about the lives of anybody but themselves. So, you know, you can see it, rape, pillage, and plunder. The goal was to put Haiti under, and you even, without naming names, you even encountered that when you reached out to some of your fellow friends who have deep pockets, did you not?
Yeah, I was really, you know, I've got a lot of friends that are billionaires, and being wealthy, I never asked for anything from anybody, and so, you know, there I was in the midst of that, and I needed transport. I needed freight brought in, because we were trying to buy hundreds of thousands of pounds of food and get it over there, and you know, and it was really disappointing, and so that was frustrating. But I tell you, Steve, you just asked a big, wide question. Let me expound on it a little bit. I would load my aircraft up from Port-au-Prince and fly it out to this desperate area that was the runway was a narco field built to bring in narcotics, and maybe they did some good after all. We were able to bring in a plane with 2,500 pounds of food, and you know, the first day we did it, there were 500 starving people there, and hadn't eaten in about 10 days, and you know, most of them are children, and we would unload the plane and kind of repackage it into personal size bags, and then have people line up and hand it out. Well, day two there was 1,000 people. Day three there was 2,000 people. By day 7 there was 4,000 people there, and we were having to bring in 3 planes a day, you know, with 7,500 pounds of food just to meet the need that was there. And I remember the first day I flew in, the Brazilian Army was supposed to be there guarding the airport. And again, I use the word airport very loosely because it was a goat field. In fact, you had to fly over the field low before you landed for them to get their goats and cattle off the field that were grazing, and then come back in and land. And then the first day, the Brazilian Army was not there. I was back alone, me and probably 500 starving people. And I got off the plane, and they came running at the plane, and they didn't just run; they were yelling and fighting. And I thought to myself, "Uh-oh, this isn't going to work out very well." And maybe I shouldn't say this, but I had a weapon on the plane, and I thought to myself, if I shoot the mob, it's probably just going to piss them off. I left it alone after God got me there, so he'll get me out of there. And to calm down, and kind of the posse arrived, and we were able to get things back under control. I was mobbed another time by 1,000 people. They were impatient with the food distribution. You got to realize these people are starving, and you can't really blame them. It was a great experience for me to see what desperate people will do, and the mob just kind of started to rush the food, and I was standing in the middle of the melee, and I had a bodyguard there, an ex-Marine who's a Haitian, and as these 1,000 people went tearing by us, and again they're yelling and fighting and trying to grab the food, but I'd been there a couple of weeks, so this was it wasn't as alarming as it might have been the first day. But with this whole thing going on around us, my bodyguard and I just kind of looked at each other and shrugged our shoulders. It was like a scene out of a Western movie. The town had just kind of gone to where it all we could do was just calmly walk out of this melee. And we got on the plane, and I looked at him and I said, "Well, we need a better plan." And then we came back the next day. I'd actually Googled emergency food distribution. And believe it or not, there's a lot of stuff online. And the next day we came out with stakes and rope and a magic marker to mark people's thumbs and the whole deal. But my movie Amerigeddon, which is what most people know me for now, it depicts a time in America where the power goes out from an EMP. And I think God gave me a preview of that because there was obviously no power, no water, and there were masses of starving people, which is what I depict in my movie is happening. And I actually got to see firsthand what desperate people would do for food, and I got to tell you, it ain't pretty. And when you consider that the average American has 3 days of food in storage, what's going to happen in America when people are hungry? What are they willing to do to feed their families? And I encourage people to watch my movie Amerigeddon. Go to Amerigeddon.com and the website. Go to your website, Steve, and and get that. And now's a good time because we've got a little reprieve here with Trump being elected, but our country still faces the globalists and their ultimate plans. And would the globalists value the lives of these poor Haitians, or would they consider that part of their depopulation plan? And I tell you, all the actions that I saw in Haiti, the miserable response of people with resources, people with influence, like the Clinton Foundation, they don't care about these people. In fact, I think they care so little they see them as expendable, or as Kissinger says, useless eaters. And I think you've got, if you don't have to be a Christian, you at least have to value people that you're equal, no matter the state that they're in. And I was picking up these little Haitian babies and saving their lives because I may be a wealthy guy, but my life has no greater value in God's eyes than the lives of these little children. And so people like us are called to meet the needs of those that are less fortunate. And here in America, we need to be mindful of our blessings and the responsibility that comes with those blessings. We have got to be willing to go where God tells us to go.
Absolutely right.
Well, Doug, one of the things, and Gary, that's really concerning, the war now against truth-telling is, you can understand the prophet who cried out, "Woe unto them who call evil good and good evil," because now the full globalist push is against the truth. And obviously when cronyism and I call it pillagism, okay, rape and pillagism is covering for each other's income streams, you're never going to get the truth. So I'm encouraging everybody to take what Gary is sharing with you to heart. And one of the things about Amerigeddon, by the way, Gary, the top briefing that President-elect Trump is getting is on the North Koreans. And I think that most people don't understand how terrorism or national terrorism works. Someone always pays the terrorist organization, group, or individuals. There's always money behind the action. If there's a golden rule in understanding terrorism, that's it. so North Korea even now is becoming more, how do I say this, more hateful in their posturing. But the number one concern, and notice this, the current establishment that has ruled in infamy and basically destroyed U.S. military, in my opinion, destroyed our ability to defend ourselves, allowed the barbarians outside the gates to come in the gates. It has promulgated an atmosphere where basically the North Korean EMP is just about a feat of accomplishment. And so the thing is that when it happens, again, any of us, we're used to, if you will, the planned behaviors we deal with, and we go flip the switch, you expect the lights come on. You go to the faucet, you expect the water, you flush the toilet, you expect the toilet to flush. But I think what Gary is describing, forgive me, I know what Gary is describing, is so far off the radar, and the reason, obviously, for the mainstream press, the vomit